Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Education Concierge Podcast. I am Benita Jean, the Education Concierge host for the podcast. We know we are in an amazing season, and I have international guests and I have national guests. We're doing global concierge, and we are reimagining education. So, I had to search all over and I found some Charity. No, that's actually her name. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, tell us who she is, what she does, and how is she reimagining, but better yet, how is she disrupting education? But as I bring her in, y'all know, hey girl, y'all know I'm a good old country girl from Lawrenceville, Virginia. And in the South, when you get invited over for dinner, you come in, take your shoes off, and wash your hands in the bathroom, not in my kitchen sink. What is happening, y'all? And we fix your plate for you, Charity. So welcome to the TEC family. We have fixed your plate, and along with that plate, we fix a nice big glass of ice cold sweet tea, because unsweet tea is a blasphemy. Who does that? Right. But because after today you are part of the family, the next 2, 3, or 4 million times you're on the podcast, you have to fix your own plate and come on into the kitchen and sit down. And we don't have kids' tables because we built our own table and everybody comes.
I love that.
So thank you so much for being on the Education Concierge Podcast. Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, a little bit about how you got started in education, and how are you reimagining.
Yes. I am Charity Marcella Moran, born and raised in Shreveport, Louisiana. I am an author of a place-based learning book with 2 other magnificent ladies, Mickey Evans and Erin Sanchez. And I came to education as a geometry teacher, and that flowed over into becoming an educational consultant and project-based learning trainer, doing some international and domestic work, both online and in person, helping with the development of project-based learning schools and classrooms. That led to me doing some work to kind of close out the work of scaling and launching and scaling project-based learning in the state of Kentucky for PBL Works. And PBL Works is also where I met Erin and Mickey, where we are, leveraging place-based learning to disrupt education by making sure that students get culturally responsive, culturally relevant, and decolonized learning experiences. And so, that's where my disruption lies, and decolonizing and thinking about liberatory pedagogy.
So many of the listeners here at TEC, we are educators, transitioning teachers, former educators, community leaders that are in education. But I do want you to break it down for us, what you just said.
Yes.
Because in one of my favorite movies, they know, like, I love Denzel Washington. And in the movie Philadelphia, he says, break it down to me like I'm a third grader. So we hear the words in the media, we hear the words in the education atmosphere when we're at conferences, decolonization and project-based learning, but break it down to us as if I'm a third grader, and really let me know how what you and your colleagues and all of us are doing to really dismantle the current education and reimagine, and not we just don't reimagine, but you're actively working into shaping and formatting education for the 22nd century.
Absolutely. And I thank you, first of all, for mentioning the 22nd century, because someone said 21st century the other day, and I was like, I think we already, So yes, what's next? Absolutely. I love a what's next thinker. So if I were to tell this and break it down for a third grader, when I say I'm doing culturally responsive and culturally relevant work, that means I'm writing the trainings and the workshops that teachers experience, as well as the lessons that students are experiencing in their classrooms that helps them understand themselves more. It's not just for people of color, but it takes what we already know that is already very white and Eurocentric, and it adds to the stories that are not being told. So yes, we learn about Christopher Columbus in 3rd grade, right? But yes, also, based on the work that I do, we're going to also learn more about the people who were here in these states on this continent before Christopher Columbus came. And we're going to learn that Christopher Columbus was actually lost.
Lost.
He was a human trafficker. And Yes. Yes. So by decolonizing, we are taking the focus away from what has been told to us and asking ourselves as third graders and as 33rd graders as we go through life, what stories are not being told, whose voices are not at the table, and who in the community do I need to know and learn more about, learn and grow with? How can I be of service to my immediate neighborhood? How can I be of service to the world and to the universe? Like, we consider all the places when we talk about place-based learning. It's not just my house, it's my city, it's my country, it's my state. You know, we go all the way out. We think about the globe, we think about how who we are as people impacts all of the universe. And we just, we think locally. I mean, we think globally, right? And act locally. And so when I say decolonize, that's what it is.
Say that again. We do what?
I said we think globally,
Okay.
universally even, and we act locally.
We act, ooh, girl.
And so when we say liberatory practices, it's more about self-awareness, knowing who I am as a learner. How do I learn? Who's in my neighborhood? What are the stories that are not being told? Does it just have to be a test that I demonstrate my learning? Can I have a conversation with you? Can I draw a painting that conveys the feeling I get when I learn about Christopher Columbus? So that's more liberating because now I get to express my knowledge in a way that I want to express it and not just how I'm being told to express it. So liberatory is that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have so many things. The questions are like, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Thank you. Because I'm from Virginia and everyone knows Jamestown and Yorktown and Williamsburg and good old Pocahontas and Sacagawea. Hey, y'all.
Yeah.
But thankfully, in Brunswick County, at the Terra Elementary School in J. Solomon Russell, I had amazing educators who taught us Christopher Columbus, but taught us about the Native Americans because our school mascot was Indians. And so they taught us this land belongs to these Indians. When we have people coming into America and we teach them America and we teach them what really happened, it doesn't make them run out. I haven't seen anybody run out of America when they found out what really happened.
Yeah.
And so,
the song says this land was made for you and me. It was made by you and me. And it will continue to be made by you and me. And are we going to build that on lies or are we going to build that on truth and empowering information? I remember when I first started teaching before my project-based learning experience, it was just kind of intrinsic to me to say, students will learn about creationism and evolution, and they'll choose what they feel is their belief. But I'm not going to impose upon them what I believe. In fact, by deepening the explorations of what's out there and what's possible, I learn more about myself, and maybe some of my opinions change because of the insight of fresh perspective. That to me is the essence of diversity, perspective. So who wants to get rid of a perspective, a different perspective? That is very stifling. And it sounds a lot like slavery. So that's when we say decolonize, we're undoing the colonization actively. Yes.
I was like, I'm gonna need you to go back into the teacher programs to really prepare the next group or the current group, even the current group of educators, to understand what you just said, because you said something powerful. It's about perspective. And if you can't see perspective and you don't see perspective changes, then we are stifled.
Yep.
And I call this is my year of unlearning. I'm no longer in a traditional school setting. I'm in a micro school setting. I'm working with middle schoolers in a micro school setting. I'm unlearning discipline. I'm unlearning stuff that I questioned what I was doing when I was doing it anyway. You know, like, oh, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do it that way anymore. And I love that you said that, because literally this year has been, my perspective is changing. You know, why do we teach it that way? And I've always been that person who's like, in America, we teach things so segmented. It's so difficult for our students to grasp And I love what you said earlier, like portfolios. We don't have to take a standardized test all the time. How would it, how can, the way I learn can be the way you test me.
Yes. Why not? Because I would never ask, and Albert Einstein made this reference. We are asking sometimes elephants to climb trees and saying that the monkey is a more intelligent being than the elephant, when really it's the testing device. Yeah. So when we do this work of place-based learning and anchoring students in historic places or anchoring the learning in the community they're immediately around them, and sometimes we're lucky if it's both historic and that community, we really do seek out intentional integrations so that no matter the grade level, sure, this may be a math project or a science project-based learning experience that we're creating anchored in this place, but we're going to do some reading, there will be speaking, there will be, some calculations will happen. We're tying in the history. So we're not isolated humans. So why should learning be in these silos and buckets?
So where are you when CNN and MSNBC and ABC are trying to talk to educators? I need you. We're gonna have to put your name out there a little bit more, because the way we need you to be out there a little bit more. I'm gonna need you to be out there. I'm gonna need you to be out there, because it is literally that simple, but that difficult. But it's that simple.
Mhm.
And if we do not, and we're going to talk about it now. We were both at a conference, an amazing conference that literally changed every aspect of our life. That was one of the things I was like, I was working with the technology sphere, and I was like, the 21st century is over. And I answered them like, if you're still scared of AI, I want you to know we've been using it for about 10 years and you didn't know it. Like in the classroom, we've been using it.
Yes, we're really excited with the PBL Path team for some ideas for proposals and workshops we have out there around place. Place can be anything now with AR and VR, and so we're really digging in. Why not? And even in that respect, we're a bit behind, honestly.
We are in the mid South, both of us in the mid South and the South, and next week we are studying the rainforest, which of course to my mid South students, they're like,
right.
And so we got them excited, and thank goodness for YouTube, thank you, and some different videos and being able to show them. So one of the curriculum we're using is amazing, and it's that do a virtual tour. We're going to do a virtual tour of San Diego Zoo, see some different animals. But we live in a city with a zoo. And so we were like, okay, that's cute. We do the virtual tour on Tuesday, but we're going to go to the actual zoo on Thursday. Why not? And we're thinking differently. Like, I loved field trips when I was in school. Back in, like I tell my students, back in the 1900s, things were different. And we went on field trips all the time. And so what was that defining moment, or what was that pathway for you to become the geometry teacher, but now the ed author and the education consultant that you are?
Well, okay, so I want to address two things. Of course, the pathway, but in my opinion / conspiracy theorist, which is really probably just a critical analyst, geometry is the most important math because it does the bulk of the work of explaining the nature of creation in terms of natural patterns that exist in everything that is created, from the patterns that are on the floors in the Taj Mahal to the way that pine cones spiral to the way that plant behind you spirals. It can be explained in geometry. And that's why it's been made so complicated and vexing, because everybody does not need to bear that knowledge according to the powers that be. And so when I became aware of things like sacred geometry and fractals and how math is essentially the language of God. And I'll get off my soapbox in just a minute. But the way when that made me start teaching it differently. And so proofs became a matter of a necessity and a fun way. Like I had students rapping proofs back in the day because that was a way that it connected to their world and helped them understand what exactly was going on. Because if you can understand the structure of a rap and what it takes to put it together, then you understand the structure of a proof. Because it's literally just this logical sequence of saying this, and because of this, that's how I know this is true. That's how I know it's a triangle.
Stop. Let me say this, because the reason the reason I loved algebra and I got algebra because a teacher like you, shout out, rest in peace, Miss Hicks, who was in a different county, because I had a Miss Hicks that was a great math teacher in my county, but I had another Miss Hicks who was a great math teacher, and I know her sons and her family, and she said to me, she said, Benita, this is like reading a sentence. She said 2x plus y equals z. And I promise you, the moment she said that, it said, ding. If you, Miss Charity, had sat in the room with me and said what you just said, my ninth grade year, Brunswick Senior High School, land of the Bulldog, it would have been ding, and I would have been okay. Because now my logical mind is no longer in the abstract. Well, because when we live, I can't live in the abstract like that. What are you talking about? Why? And I know that people are like, English is so abstract. No, we can prove it. I can still prove to you that this poem is talking about cheese or it's talking about the red. I can still prove it. But you over here, but you just said, because you said it in a sentence, you're like, this does this because of this. I was like, oh, girl, that's cause and effect. Like, what are we talking about?
Absolutely. It's the ultimate logic. And I tell people all the time, you don't like geometry because you didn't have me as your teacher.
Come on, man. I agree.
I love geometry because I had excellent teachers like Susan Moyers and Rita Salisbury, and, just excellent folks who, of course, we got to the books. Of course, we got to the work in the textbook, but they made sure that we knew how to derive and critically think about things and not just memorize and regurgitate.
I believe that the new word in the education system is critical thinking.
Yeah.
And
I don't understand how that's so new.
No, so we've been in the classroom and we've always said, okay, how do I get these kids to critical thinking? Outside of testing. I don't need you I need you to think about Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Because there were some things in Shakespeare that you were like, I need you to think about when we're reading Maya Angelou.
Yes.
And think about how she went mute. And then she became this articulate person and writing and speaking. What happened? And so I think that when we allow students to fail just a little, part of riding a bike is falling off of it.
Absolutely.
That's part of it.
If you're not making mistakes, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough.
And that's when we come back and look at it, that's my critical thinking. Like, oh, don't do that. Okay, try this. Okay, I'm left-handed, so I need to push off on my whole family's left-handed. We push off on the bike on the left.
I love it.
Okay, and so how do I, and even I'm left-handed. School was all right-handed desks. Third grade in, the teacher breaks in. They all excited. They got these left-handed desks. What did all the left-handed kids do? We fell out the seats.
Because of the orientation that you've been trained to.
It's too late. We're in third grade. And people know third grade. If you don't get it, we go struggle. And we went back and was like, we don't want these desks. I fell out the desk. It was like sitting there and then boom. It was like, who pushed me?
Not laughing at you.
It's like, what are you doing? I just fell out. But orientation. So when you oriented your students' minds to be open this way, it was easy to transfer. It was easy to walk into. Okay, so we did that. Thank you.
So the pathway became, I was a geometry teacher. My position was Rift. Otherwise, you could have buried me in that classroom. I was not going to go anywhere, but fate would have it such that there was another path. And that led me to becoming a school development coach with the New Tech Network, which is a project-based learning, wall-to-wall, fully integrated, technology-infused methodology. And this was maybe 15 years ago, if not a little more. Holy moly. So from the school development coach position, I became a Title I instructional specialist with Baton Rouge Parish Schools in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I did work around doing some reformulation of the alternative school programs. And so in infusing, that's when I really, really, really took my project-based learning knowledge. And that's when I didn't know it was called culturally responsive, but that's when focusing on Black boys and the educational practices that empowered them. So connecting to the community, relevant ideas and topics and discussions, scaffolding, having high expectations, never letting down on the expectations, but doing the work to build them up. All of those things that we have all these names for, like differentiation and personalized instruction, when really at its core, in reformulating that program and supporting the teachers in that acceleration and recovery program, working with the students that schools had sent away, which were mostly Black and brown boys and Black girls, and learning things about, the book Push Out had just come out at the moment. And digging into some of my own knowledge of myself and saying, how have I been misinterpreted as either a very quiet and docile student who became a very vocal and speaking out adult, which is why I got riffed at the first of the conversation of this path, right? So I'm trying to merge who I am, reconcile who I am, while building what I know is going to work for kids that look like my little brothers, who were also very much so underserved by public schools and mistreated and abused. And so just kind of pulling all that together is when my culturally responsive world just kind of exploded. And so everything from there on out was what's best for Black males, what's best for Black boys, because I know that all ships rise with the tide. So that work went to, focusing on more project-based learning, but now through the lens of what's best for Black boys. And so that's where I've kind of been in that space, and then learning more through Zaretta Hammond's work that I got to meet at ASCD Ghana this summer, and actually have conversations with that queen, and providentially running into Dr. Lisa Delpit in the grocery store after I put her on my vision board. I will tell this story to the day I die. I put her book on my vision board and reading her material. And then like that March, I met her in the grocery store and was just like, how can I learn from you, be of service to you? And she's been so gracious as a mentor and just a sister in education and an elder, and just wise and giving and challenging. Every time I speak, sometimes I don't speak with her because I don't want the challenge of what do I need to reformulate. And so that just kind of led me to where I am now. So through the work of like the past, since 2014, working with Buck Institute for Education, PBL Works, meeting my colleagues and co-authors and PBL Path, and just kind of bringing in threads from my youth, where like we growing up would have family reunions at Melrose Plantation in Natchitoches in Louisiana. And so working with Whitney Plantation and getting schools down there, and what does it look like to create an experience for the teachers first, so that they can take that emotion and energy and create something for students, and working with teacher prep programs. So that's kind of where I am now in my journey. And just most recently with the work at ASCD Ghana, there's a small cohort, but mighty cohort of teachers who want to do more place-based learning in their communities and in the central region of Ghana. And so we're active, we're live, we're just going to see where it takes us.
So that was a great segue. Everybody knows this season is about global education. And so many of my guests are men and women who I knew before personally, or I knew because of LinkedIn and Instagram and following works that you all have been doing in the education atmosphere and just changing systems and dismantling foolishness. And so share with the audience, your new family, TEC family, ASCD Ghana, the moment, the movement, the learning that you received, the learning that you offered, every aspect that you would like to share with us, and how has it changed? Because that was in July. How has it changed your thought pattern? How, and then you already speak about how you have your team is ready. I call them my team now. They're ready. We're working hard to disrupt and dismantle, but also reminding them that they were already on a great path. I had to remind one lady, she said, because in America, I said, in America, I still had schools that were doing COVID. I still had places doing COVID and my students did not have Wi-Fi. And she just looked like, what?
Yeah.
At whole apartment buildings, it was a blackout. It was called we literally had to drive, not me, but they drove a school bus to the edge of the street parking, and we had the Wi-Fi on the school bus, and every morning. And for basically anybody in the community could use that Wi-Fi. We just reminded them that you're on the school Wi-Fi, so you know. Okay. And at 4:00, the person would come back, and they would drop them off, and they would get back in the bus, and they would drive back. Like, you think we're far, but we still have rural places, just like you have rural places.
Yeah.
And they were like, huh? I said, the rural place I'm from is a great, and they have, everyone in that community has really rallied to ensure that the education and the educators are up and they're moving and they're shaking. I said, but there are some places that is just not happening. And once I was like, I'm telling them that, and they're just looking at me, and I said, yeah, so the America that you see maybe on TV is city, but just like you, I teach in Title I. I teach and I said I teach in rural schools. Like, I've taught all of the things. I've taught at bougie schools where the parents were not engaged. And I've taught at Title I schools where the parents were not engaged, and for two different reasons. But guess what? It was all work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just share with us your amazing, because that's the only word I can use right now, because it's still hard to unpack now. I'm still unpacking it, but share part of your ASCD Ghana Summit 2024 experience with us.
I am certain that experience is going to ripple across the rest of my existence. So to unpack it right now, it would take time, and we'd have to come back every year or every decade and just kind of draw a line back to this summer. But immediately, the impact around the unity of the diaspora and the notion of, we're not coming in to Ghana to save Ghana. We're here to interact and engage in dialogue and see what do you have going on? What can I bring to share? What can I get from you? So it was kind of this notion of, am I giving or am I receiving? And so, am I sowing or am I reaping? And the answer was yes. You're kind of doing a little bit of everything. So that was a beautiful experience. It was affirming to be in the presence of educators who were the same kinds of passionate in the same kinds of ways. So that was a huge confidence boost. It was expanding because I got to, meet folks like you and Kwame, and we're doing work. And Alcine and Laureen, and oh my God, working with them and just the ongoing conversations. I know I left names out because there were folks on the ground in Ghana, like Peter Jones at J. He was one of the tour guides for the initial tour experiences with the Adinkra group. But as we conversed and connected, it seemed to be a bit more providential because he had he had an education background. He was, critically and politically inclined towards amplifying the resources in the community. So when it was time to hold a workshop and talk about community asset mapping, it was only right and to bring him in as the guest expert so that I could model what I'm sharing with teachers and leaders. And he comes in as a community asset, as a guest expert, and a way to connect that content of place-based learning and thinking about what's in the community. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it's been. Is just really revelatory and affirming and just stirring in a good way. Any pieces of me on my mission of empowering Black males and doing this culturally responsive and place-based learning, any pieces that had grown stagnant got a little dust off and, a little shine in the ASCD Ghana experience. So I cannot wait to dedicate every summer of my life to that movement. People who were stolen refused to die.
Refused.
They refused to give up so that I could decide whether or not I want to have children. I could decide how I want to move around the world. So that I could have that choice, I was able to stand on the land where the people who were stolen did not have that choice. And so I make all the outlandish and wild and unruly choices that I feel like they would and are chanting me on. It was a huge reconnection. You mentioned the ghosts and the castles and being in the dungeons and realizing the hypocrisy of churches being built upon, literally on top of places where humans were stored as chattel. Just that in and of itself is an untold narrative that I need to get told. Just kind of being in that space and feeling the energy and asking the people who were there when it was not the best place, what would they have me to do? And according to what they would have me to do, if they would then in turn support me as I do the work.
And I'm sitting here smiling because my sister, myself, you, other people, we have all done the same thing in a different way, like pause for a moment.
Yes.
And said, let me to my ancestors.
Absolutely.
And you've been guiding me, but I'm here.
Yeah.
What is it? Tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I told my sister all the time, I said, I have no idea why I'm crying, but I do know why. My one prayer has always been as a little girl, send me, I'll go.
Yes.
So when I tell my family, hey, I'm moving to Dubai next week, and they be like, okay, girl. Hey, I'm moving to DC from Pensacola.
Yes.
Wait, I'm gonna go to Miami with y'all for a year. Wait. Okay, I'm gonna move to Memphis.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move to Memphis. Because I'm gonna do that. And I tell people all the time, I said, so if you notice, my name does not have any letters behind it.
Yes.
I have a Bachelor of Arts degree education from Hampton University.
Yes. All right, Hampton.
All right, Hampton. Come on. And I had to pause for a moment sitting in the room when I got the email saying, come speak here, and then speak here again, and then speak here again. And then stay for the masterclass and speak at the masterclass.
What?
Yeah. And I remember sitting there for a moment. And I didn't tell anybody for like 2 weeks. I just sat on it.
It was just for you.
It was just for me. And I was like, and then I remember I called one of my good friends and I told her, we were talking, and I said, she said, do you remember that? She said, you are literally in the two things you prayed about, or you were speaking to existence. She said, you used to tell me that I'm going to speak in front of I'm going to speak in front of nations.
Yes.
She said, you are going to Ghana, speak in front of nations. Yeah. And I'm working on that now. And I would be sitting there. And I remember saying when we were there, my sister was like, and my sister said something very similar to what you said. She said, but she took it even further for her. She said, not only did they choose to survive, when they got to America, when they got to Trinidad, when they got to Jamaica, and they were enslaved, they survived.
Yep.
So that I could be here.
Mm-hmm. And they held on to things like in Barbados, they had on to, crop over festival and the dancing that became the twerking. That's New Orleans bounce dance. And it's also it's in our genes. And I think the tears are when they remember and we remember, and there's a spark that's just kind of unmanageable and our body has to cry. Yeah. Yep. To all of that, like the shirt that there's Studio B in New Orleans with the artist Mike, and it says, I am my ancestors' wildest dream.
Yes.
Sometimes my wildest dream was just being able to nap all day. Do you know I have no problem napping all day on days when it's time to nap all day? Just saying,
Hallelujah.
we were just
Girl.
talking this morning, like, why am I always waking up at 4 a.m.? Because they had us working from can't see to can't see. That's why.
And so
That's
we
why.
grew up. We grew up. I'm still a 4 o'clock riser, but
Yeah.
I got up at 4 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, I got back in the bed and said, now, we're not going to get out of this bed till 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Even if we just laying here. If we lay here and watch the ceiling fan circle,
Mhm.
if we lay here and listen to some Jill Scott, if we lay here and listen to some sermon that I found on YouTube, we're going to lay and be present in this moment that I have prayed for.
Absolutely. That generations before us have prayed for. That folks who were shackled naked being transported into chains hoped for. Hope that they, yeah.
For some peace and for some solitude.
Yeah.
And it's okay. That has nothing to do with education.
But that was Ghana. Ghana brings it out of you. And if it doesn't bring it out of you, it was never in you.
Because what's down, like we say in the country, what was down in the well gonna come up in the bucket. If it was down there, it's gonna come. Good, bad, evil, all of it, whatever's down there.
It's going to come out of you.
Go come up in that bucket.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, look, we're gonna go to the fun segment because that was
Okay.
okay. Here's the fun part. Back in the day, you know this.
Fun to it. This has all been fun, but let's get a little crazy. I'm ready.
This part is called this or that, and it's like the song. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this. Okay, that's what we do. So we're gonna go through some. Look, if there's no or, and you want to say both or hybrid, that's fine because we're in education, and it's not always black and white with us.
I'm going to try to be as decisive as possible.
Here we go. Okay, traditional classrooms or virtual learning environment.
You better cut it out. Virtual. If I have to pick, virtual.
Individual projects or collective group work.
Collectivism. Yeah, collective group work.
All right. Standardized testing or project-based assessments.
Project-based assessments, but of course,
In-person workshop or online webinars.
person workshop. You almost got me with that one.
I always say it depends on who it is. E-books or a real book.
A real book. I need to write and feel the pages and turn and see the thickness change as I go.
You need to smell it.
Yes.
I love it. Okay. Flexible scheduling or fixed timetable.
Flexible scheduling.
All right. Technology-driven instruction or hands-on learning.
Hands-on learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Creative arts integration or STEM focused.
Creative arts integration. And that's as a math teacher, biology major. That's whoa.
You pushing it, man. You about to get kicked out of the group.
About to get kicked out of all the STEM groups that I'm a part of.
But I love the new stream, which incorporates both. So now they have stream. Yeah. So another podcast episode, the guest let me know, and I said, "Oh, wait a minute." So I started googling. So yep. So I'm in love with this.
Okay.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Owl.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then our last one: audiobooks or a podcast.
Podcast, baby.
Thank you so much for playing this or that. I love it. Okay, so then this is where we go to. Do you have a call of action as you are reimagining education? Is there something that you are working on? What is the next thing? Because you and I are both on our 22nd century. What's the next thing you can see, whether you're speaking, whether it's about teaching, whether it's about teacher prep, whether it is about project-based learning? What is the next thing that you are working towards and on? And is there a call to action that we need to be aware of and help?
Very much so connected to this idea of place-based learning projects. I think the next wave of the 22nd century is us making sure that us as edupreneurs, edu-authors, and consultants or whatnot, I want to challenge us to include parents more and to make sure parents are they have more capacity to either work alongside schools and micro schools and pods or be the pods themselves.
So
That's it.
you know we already gonna connect because you know I love me a good pod. My new title as
Yes.
of this week, so funny to me, is what is it? School launch consultant, which I didn't even
Heck
know
yeah.
that.
I could see that for
And
you.
and the lady, she was like, no, she's like, you're more like a school launch consultant. She said, because we call you, and she's like, you help us navigate through. And I was sitting there like, okay, let me go over here to Chat GPT. What does that mean? That's my boyfriend.
My
Um,
personal assistant, yes.
I like that better. My virtual personal assistant, my AI. I love that. Okay, here's where we get ready to wrap up. We want you to tell us how we can connect to hire you.
Okay.
How can we connect? Because we don't pick brains here. How can we connect to get into your mastermind class? How can we connect to your social media so when you post the knowledge, we can receive it?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to shout out the HBCU, a PWI, or if you're a member of the Divine Nine, then that is your opportunity. And then we're going to wrap it on up.
Absolutely. All right. So you can email me to set up a time for any consultation or brain picking you desire at charity@idoschool.com, IDOSCHOOL. So you can also holler at me on all things social media at I Do School. So we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and then the website, idoschool.com. And then in terms of the greatest HBCU in the land, the Southern University and A&M College of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I like to shout them out in the Human Jukebox, as well as all of my sorors of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to the Pi Pi chapter at LSU Shreveport. The chapter is so nice. They named us twice. I love both things. LSU gave me some grad school work, and Centenary College of Louisiana in Shreveport is where I got my certification to become a teacher and a curriculum designer. So all things, but I really, really love Delta Sigma Theta and Southern University. They have my heart, as does Booker T. Washington High School, where I first started teaching.
Yes, let me tell you something. There is no one, there has never been anybody other than an HBCU grad who's going to go harder to pay. Okay? And if you did not graduate from an HBCU, nor do you attend one, can you talk smack to each other? Can you stand over there?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna support Southern. She's just like she gonna support Hampton. And if I'm like, oh, y'all doing a fundraiser where? Okay, send me how I get a ticket. Like I'm covered. Did you say
no? I learned more there than anywhere. Yes.
Yes. And our sisters in D9 DST who represent proudly beside us, in front of us, behind us, around us. Also, another thing, if you're not a part of the D9, don't try and get in the route. Okay, so just sit over there. Because at the end of the day, it's all love. Because the two things that I know we're going to do is support each other and support the community.
Yes.
The end.
Activism. Period.
I love that. And yes, I'm trying to think. I already shut up my school, but this is how we ended because I'm a good old Southern girl. And the church I grew up was Little Shallow Baptist Church on Otterdam Road in Port, Virginia. Shout out the pastor that he rests in heaven now, Reverend Charlie and Reverend Jacob Turner Jr.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not talk about Reverend Jacob Turner Jr. Everybody back home, Southside Virginia, don't press me about my pastor. Okay, because he used to pass out cough drops, girl, like they was candy. Kids over here, we not sick, we coughing because the halls that open up our throat. That's my pastor, not my pastor.
I love it.
I am the pastor of the church. We have opened the doors of the church. Don't worry about trying to call anybody Jesus. Everybody say. But as the guest pastor, it is your job to leave us inspired, motivated, and ready to take on the world for the week until we meet again. So however you want to do that for your new TEC family, do that, and we're going to wrap it up.
We're recording this on the brink of the fall equinox. So the leaves on the trees are about to give us a beautiful lesson of what it means to let go and still stay. Yeah. So that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Miss Charity Moran. Did I say it
Moran.
Moran. Let me go back. Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, Miss Charity Moran, thank you so much for gracing us, the TEC family. Do not be a stranger. If you need us, reach out. We are here to support and help and uplift the education community, to collaborate and connect. We'll see y'all later.
I love it.
Thank you.